All right, welcome out to the Gridiron 64 podcast, where today it's just two of us. So it should be a really quick podcast, maybe 25, 30 minutes, we hope. It's just me and Tony. Tony, what's up?
What's up, man?
All right.
How's it going?
It's going great. Just here to break down round three of the playoffs of Division 4A, Division 1 and 2. Johnny's unable to be here today. The other two guys, the Ingleside crew, could not make it as well. So it's just me and the Big T. So we're going to break it down for you. We're only going to break down really six games. We'll talk about six games. The rest of them, we'll just kind of tell you the score. Um, we'll be breaking down the number three ranked Cal Allen Wildcats, who took on LBJ Jaguars. We'll break down the Bernie Greyhounds versus the Miller Buccaneers. That was a good game. I was actually at that game, Tony, in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome. It was an awesome game. Glad I went to go see it. And then we'll also break down in Division One, number seven, La Vega Pirates, going up against the number one team in the state, the Argyle Eagles. In 4A Division Two, we'll break down the number one Cartilage Bulldogs going up against number six Salado Eagles. We'll also break down the Navarro Panthers and the Navasota Rattlers. And we'll also break down the Sitting Pirates, who played the Wimberley Texans. The rest of the other games, we'll just kind of give you a score on what happened. So there were some really good games out. I was really impressed. I thought some of my teams that I had picked actually went down. There were other teams that I thought possibly could be in trouble. Really dominated their games, and so we'll start off with the 4A Division One T. And first game on the gridiron was the Springtown Porcupines. They went up against number nine Dumas Demons. Springfield takes down the number nine team 24-14. Um, Number two on the gridiron schedule, you had the Canyon Eagles going up against Decatur Eagles. Canyon takes that game 35-7 in round three. And then we'll come up to the first game that we'll break down here, which was the number three Cal Allen Wildcats. They were going up against LBJ Jaguars. Cal Allen goes down 38-24. Um, I'll let you go first on this one. Tony, I actually had Cal Allen to go all the way to state and actually win it. They go down to the third round. Very disappointing. But what was your take on this game? It was 38-24, but actually LBJ, I think, pretty much had control of this game for the most part.
Yeah, I was watching the updates on that game, and it looked like there was a point in the fourth quarter where Cal Allen had the game kind of close, and then a few minutes later, LBJ got a bigger lead and extended their lead, and Cal Allen just ran out of time. But for the most part, LBJ never had a really substantial lead, so Cal Allen stayed in the game most of the time. I didn't see the game. I didn't stream the game, so I don't know exactly if it wasn't because they weren't getting the ball rolling or what. I know Cal Allen doesn't really pass a lot, but LBJ came to play and to beat a state ranked team like Cal Allen, number three in the state. They ended up winning the district down here, the really tough district. So hats off to LBJ for getting that win. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed because the last time we talked about this, I thought that this game versus LBJ was very winnable. As was the game. Miller had, and I was really looking forward to a rematch. But there's always next year. I think that Danaher has a great program down there, and I think that we'll keep seeing them deep in the playoffs year after year. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's a tough loss for the area, because we always look for Cal Allen and some of these teams to keep our area in the playoffs. So we'll just you know see what happens next year.
I actually picked Cal Allen to win this game. I had seen Cal Allen play Port Lavaca, right? And Port Lavaca is a very run heavy team. And I actually watched that game. And, you know, Cal Allen really dominated that game. The uh, the defense for Cal Allen just really looked good against that Calhoun team, and this was a really good Calhoun run attack team, and they really shut them down for 4 quarters. So I was really impressed with Cal Allen's defense in that game. And then they had played a Miller team that they also beat in the regular season, which was totally different from the Port Lavaca, which is they're more explosive. Rockport saw them because they came down and we played them. So we saw how explosive that Miller team is, how they can score really quickly, and they're pass heavy. They just go at it for 4 quarters. So they basically won the game with a playing against a high power, which they were able to manage and beat. And then they were able to play a really heavy, good run team in Calhoun during the regular season and win, shut them down. It wasn't even close. And then early on the season, you saw them play a really tough Waco La Vega team that they went down to, but they were in that game. They could have won it. So I just based on what I saw there from Carolina, and then they have this big old offensive line, not a star-studded running back like maybe say the Port Lavaca had, but a very good offensive line, big, fast, that they can just bury you. They can just run the ball down your throat for 4 quarters, which is what Cal Allen does. So with all that, I just thought, I didn't know much about LBJ, but I was like, I kind of figured Cal Allen, can pull this out, and then we're going to see Miller, because I thought Miller could beat Bernie, but I wasn't sure. But I think LBJ's they have two guys on the defensive side, if I'm saying this correctly, who are already committed to D1 schools. But I think LBJ's speed really affected Cal Allen. And I didn't go to the game. I didn't stream it. I saw a couple of highlights and read some articles, but it appeared like Cal Allen. I did see some highlights where they threw the ball. They had a lot of speed. Cal Allen's secondary couldn't stay up with them, or I don't know if it was a pass or a run, but they had the speed, and I really think the speed really hurt Cal Allen. And I thought Cal Allen could handle that because they had seen Miller before. They took a lead, I think, early in the second quarter, somewhere around there, like 19-17 or 17 something. But outside of that, LBJ really had this game pretty much in control. In the second half, they just kind of poured it on, and Cal Allen just had trouble. So, as you said, it was a great season for Phil Danaher and the Cal Allen Wildcats. I'm disappointed. I really thought, looking at this team, that they would get back. And I actually thought they'd get out of the region and possibly have some trouble in the region. But I thought that they could get out of this region and go into the championship game. But it didn't happen. We'll see what happens next year. I thought this was a really good defense. But hats off to LBJ. Obviously, this is a great team with a lot of speed, a lot of talent in the skill positions, and they're going to be tough to beat. So it was a great season for the Wildcats. Unfortunately, they come up with the loss. And we'll be talking about them come 2 days next year. And I believe that this team will come back again and make another deep run. We shall see. The number 4 on the gridiron, you had Chapel Hill Bulldogs going up against number 10, Lindell. Lindell takes a huge win, 36-7. Number 5 on the gridiron, you had Kilgore Bulldogs versus Hardgrave Falcons. Kilgore takes a 3-point lead and advances to round 4 with a 2017 win. It was a good, close game. And then the next game we'll break down on the gridiron was the Bernie Greyhounds going up against the Miller Buccaneers. Miller takes the win 70-45. Tony, I'll let you take this one. Your thoughts on the Miller game?
Yeah, this is one that I was also well, actually, you're keeping me updated on this game. There was Miller really took the game away, from Bernie, really in the second half, and then it got kind of close at the end of the third, and then man, Miller just kept scoring. You know, we know a body in that offense. We know what body in that offense can do over there. We know that they can score points. Um, and they did that. And it looked like they had a ground attack as well. that sophomore fullback they got over there was really pounding in some of those runs, and I think he scored their first touchdown. But you know, Miller came out to play, and Miller, they were number three in their district, but man, they're the only ones still in with the the tough district that they're in. They're the only ones still in, and the way they're playing right now, I think they have a chance to get out of the region for sure. I mean, the way they're playing right now, I mean, scoring the points that they're scoring against tough teams. They beat Lampasas, last week. So being able to do the kind of things that they're doing right now in the postseason, that team is pumped. And we know we talked about it all season. They can score points. Talked about defensively, they have to make some stops from the other team, and they did that. They had some stops. They had some interceptions, and they had some fourth down stops that really helped them to get that lead. They don't need a lot of stops because they're going to score on most of the possessions. They just need a few stops to get that 3, 4, 5 touchdown lead, and they can keep it. You know what I mean? So because they score fast, but I'm looking for Miller, the kind of football they're playing right now to make it out of the region, and I think LBJ is going to have their hands full with the the way Miller is running and passing right now, because like I said, they did have a running game that they hadn't really showed in their district. Bodies getting so many yards on the ground in the postseason. I don't even know. He's probably 400 or 500 yards on the ground already just in the postseason. I know he had almost 200 last week and over 200 passing last week. He had a bunch of yards last week by himself. So just the kind of football that Miller's playing right now, I think that they're going to get out of the region for sure. And hats off to Miller for keeping their heads up throughout the season, because they had a few losses in a row there. And they kept their heads up, and they had some close games against Miller and Cal Allen, and they came up on the losing end, but they kept their heads up, and man, they're the only ones in the playoffs right now, in the postseason, represent the area in 4A Division One. So I just if anyone from Miller watches, congratulations on the season that you all are having, and good luck. This week against LBJ, bring home that regional crown.
I'm going to tell you, I was at the game at the Alamo Dome, and when Bernie beat Port Lavaca, I thought, okay, this is going to be a game. But really, Bernie was no match, and no disrespect to Bernie, but they were no match on the defense for Miller's offense. What was impressive, Tony, was just the way Miller scored. They were hitting slants. They were going deep. When the coverage was one-on-one, there was a time when Bernie had the safety help in the corner, and they still couldn't stop these guys. Passes were still getting in. These guys were breaking tackles and going further. They just really wore down that high tempo game of Miller. Just really wore down Bernie's defense. And it was very impressive to see. I mean, because they could at this game, they could just score at will. I mean, they just could do whatever they wanted to do. Great play calling by the Miller coaching staff. Body just playing exceptional. Reading his targets. And the one thing that I really saw from Miller was that, he's the receivers are young, most of them, and they just know throughout the season where Body's going to be. He knows where they're going to be at. I mean, they just find that soft spot, and it's there. And the line really gave Body the time to throw. And I think that's real important. I think that line's got to give him time. If Body has time, it's going to pick you apart. If you go one-on-one, at least in this game, I mean, they went back-to-back deep throws, one-on-one, and it was perfect pass, a touchdown. I mean, they scored 14 points quickly. They just looked very impressive offensively with me throughout 4 quarters. Now they did something here that I didn't see. They had much of an effect when they played Rockport, which is the running back that they had was also huge. He was gaining 6, 7 yards, pretty much a pop. So that was another thing when they didn't pass it, they could go through, and they were gaining positive yards pretty much every time he got the ball. So There wasn't a good running attack that Bernie had to try to stop. And then there was the passing attack, which was really hard because when these guys got caught one on one, Miller won the matchup. So Bernie, as good of a defense as it was, I just don't think they could stay up with that high power offense that Miller had. And as I said, the line blocked very well. Defensively, Miller's defense has gotten a lot better than what we saw in the early games of this season because they were really able to contain a lot of what Bernie wanted to do. Now, I'll give Bernie their quarterback, man. He was he was something else. That Bernie quarterback, don't know his name, but he rolled out. I mean, with some pressure, and he rolled to the right, and I mean, he just on the run, he chunked it like 45, 50 yards. I mean, he just chunked it down. I mean, he had an arm, and they catch it and scored. They scored most of their touchdowns, T on not like Miller did. It was just like on a scramble, just going to throw it up, and they just happened to come up with it. Miller was very dominant in this game, offensively and defensively. And it was just impressive to see what they could do. I really hope that they get out of the region. I think LBJ will present a different type of a challenge for Miller, because I think they'll have the speed to be able to stay up with these receivers. I don't think these receivers will quite be able to burn them as they did Bernie, but Miller's still very impressive. They're clicking on all cylinders now, and they beat land passes, and so there's no reason to think that they can't beat LBJ. But this will be a game, I think, and we'll kind of break it down later in the week. But this is going to be a game of who makes the fewer mistakes. This will be a game where I think Miller cannot make any mistakes if they want to advance out of the region. For both teams. But in 3 games they scored 50 plus points. So no one so far has slowed down Miller, and this is scary. They're a very scary team. And so I heard the tickets were already sold out for the game. So I don't know if you can get any more tickets. I don't know how true that is, but listen, Miller's looking good, and like I said, LBJ will present a different type of challenge. But the way Miller's playing, yes, I think they can go all the way to Dallas. There's no reason to believe that this team can't get there with the way they're playing. As long as their defense can continue to hold up and play the way they play, this offense looks really, really scary. T, I seen them. So congratulations to the Miller Bucks. Great game. I think it's going to be another great game on Saturday. And I'm definitely rooting for them. They're from the Corpus area, and I definitely would like to see them get out of the region and see what they can do, and hopefully they can get to Dallas. But what a great game by the Miller Bucks! So congratulations, and we look forward for Miller to play a really good game on Saturday, get the win, and advance. Continue to play on. Um, the next game on the gridiron, you had number 4 Melissa Cardinals going up against Paris. Paris takes the win, 54 to 49. High scoring game there. And another game that we'll break down here on the gridiron was the number 7 La Vega Pirates going up against the number 1 Argyle Eagles. Argyle takes the win, 28-14. Argyle, the number 1 team in the state of Texas. Tony, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was looking at the box score, and I was looking at the stats from Argyle. I don't have the stats on La Vega, but I have the stats for Argyle, and basically, I mean, it was a close game all the way through, and this is a game where I thought if anyone was gonna upset, well, not anyone, but at this point, I figured this would be Argyle's toughest match, with Waco La Vega, and it turned out to be because 28-14, it was pretty close. I mean, they went into the half 14-7, and then La Vega scores, and it's tied for a little while, and then Argyle scores. So it was a close game. La Vega, we know how tough La Vega is. They beat Cal Allen, they beat Port Lavaca, and this is a game that I thought that would be a tough one for Argyle. And just looking at the stats, I mean, it looked like it was a defensive game. Your quarterbacks only three completions for 10 attempts for 69 yards passing. The run attack, they have a combined under 200 yards rushing. You know, So it was a very defensive game. From what I'm looking at, and Argyle pulled it off. So, they are the number one team in the state for a reason, and La Vega, you know, fortunately couldn't give them their first loss, but they it did prove that that the competition is getting tougher in that 4A Division One. So we'll see what happens. They got Paris next week, and see how Argyle does against that high powered offense over there. So, but
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about this is I thought this was going to be a very good game. The reason I wanted to kind of break it down and give you guys a chance to break it down was I thought that the team that won this game was going to win the championship game. I still believe that. Of course, you still got Kilgore, you got Paris, you still got some really good teams in that Division One that could potentially beat Argyle. But I have to say, Tony, I think Argyle is the favorite to win.
yeah.
They're really good, and it's really scary. The way this team is playing. Um, and like I said, we'll see in the next 2 weeks what happens. There still are some teams in that Division One that are really, really good. I read up a little bit on Kilgore. Teams that aren't ranked, but that doesn't mean anything. We've heard here on the Gridiron rankings really don't mean nothing now. It's good to have it, but you can get beat on any Friday or Saturday that you play. So, very interesting. We'll see how far if Argyle can make it all the way to Dallas and win a championship. But there might be some teams out there that can take them out. So, very good game between the Pirates and the Eagles. And so that'll conclude the 4A Division One. We'll go to 4A Division Two now. We'll break three games down and just kind of give you the scores on what happened in round three. So we'll start off with number seven, Cattle Mills of the Foxes. They went up against the number five team that won the state championship last year in Pleasant Grove Hawks. Surprisingly, Pleasant Grove goes down 35-31 to Cottle Mills. I was kind of surprised. I thought Pleasant Grove would go, but they're out. Great season that they had, and I look forward to these guys repeating and coming back and making a deep run next year. Number 11 on the gridiron, you had number three Gilmore Buckeyes going up against Sunnyvale Raiders. Gilmore takes the huge win, 31-14. And number 12 on the gridiron, you had number 9 CD Tigers going up against China Springs. China Springs takes the big win, 31-13. And then you have the one game that we will break down on the gridiron, which was number 1 Carthage Bulldogs going up against number 6 Salado Eagles. Carthage really took this win, big win, 35-7. Your thoughts on this game, Tony?
Yeah. We talk about how good Argyle is, right? Well, Carthage was the top dog last year in 4A Division One. Carthage won state last year in 4A Division One, and now they're in 4A Division Two, and no one has really given Carthage a close game the whole season, and like you said about that La Vega
Argyle.
Argyle game. Whoever won that was going to win state. I don't see Carthage losing to anyone. Even though they're in 4A Division Two, we talked. We hoped early in the season that Rockport would get out of region and hopefully make it to state. But you got to go. The road to state is through Carthage. Carthage is tough. They're big. They're fast. They're big. Again, I'll say it again. Uh, I they just, like I said, they haven't had a close game the whole season. Nope. No one has scored over 20 points on them. So
Wow.
I just don't see. China Springs is good. China Springs has proven me wrong. You know what I mean? But I don't Carthage is just really good, and Salado is another state ranked team, and I figured the game will be closer than 35-7, especially like we talk about. Anything could happen in the playoffs. And Salado knows what they're going up against when they go up against a team like Carthage. But I imagine they did everything they could to try to win that game, and but Carthage is just too big. They're just they're going to be, if they stay in 4A Division Two, they're going to be a powerhouse, and they're going to be a powerhouse for a while. So we'll see what happens. Next week, they got China Springs, and we'll see what happens. That's another. They're from two different parts of the state, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be a new challenge for them.
Well, just kind of the stat that you threw out there with Carthage. I mean, no one scored over 28 points on them the whole season. That's scary. They're playing stank ranked teams that just beat. It kind of seems like with ease. So it would appear that Carthage again is the favorite to win the division, and it's the first year that they dropped to 2A. But I'm going to tell you something, and I don't want to break down this game much because we'll do it on the predictions. But China Springs just might be the team. China Springs has beaten three ranked teams already pretty convincingly. They beat Jasper in week 1, they beat West Orange Stark in week 2, and they beat Sealy. So these are teams. They're no joke, and China Springs is really taking care of business. But for China Springs, this will be their toughest task. And I'm going to want to keep the highlights on this game because I really believe that this is going to be a team that is going to be very, very difficult. This is going to be a really good game. The way China Springs has been playing, like I said, they knocked off three ranked teams in 3 weeks of playoff football. Very impressive wins, but this will be their toughest in Carthage. Like Tony said, the defense has given up minimal points to this point to their opponents. So this is a very scary team, and this China Springs Carthage game will be good, and we'll be talking more about this game as we do our predictions later on in the week. The next game on the gridiron was the Iowa Park Hawks going up against the Salina Bobcats. Salina takes a huge win, 42-24. The next game on our schedule, and we'll break this game down, was number 15. Was the number 15th game on the schedule was Navarro Panthers going up against the Navasota Rattlers. Navarro takes the win 28-7, which now will advance Navarro over into round 4, and they'll be playing, of course, their opponent. We'll talk about who they'll be playing here in a few minutes. But the Navarro game and Navasota, we saw Navasota play, um, and Rockport had a chance to beat them. We talked a little bit about them when we broke the Rockport game down, where their top running back was hurt in that Rockport game. And then their starting quarterback was also hurt as well. I didn't get I couldn't see, I didn't get any type of notifications. I wasn't able to see if Navasota was at full strength, if their quarterback was able to come back for this round 3 matchup with Navarro. I wasn't able to see if they had their running back. So not sure if Navasota was at full strength. I would have to think that they were not because they only scored 7 points. I'm thinking that their quarterback and their running back was out, but I'm not sure on that. And so I think if Navasota didn't have those two studs, it was going to be very hard for them to beat a very good Navarro team who's been good pretty much all season. They're district champs, I believe, and of course they're in the playoffs area. So this is a team in Navarro that is experience pretty much in the playoffs. They go 3, 4 deep pretty much every year. So this was a team that was going to be hard to beat even if you're at full strength. So if Navasota was not at full strength with these injuries, I think it was going to be very difficult for them to be able to beat a pretty good Navarro team. Looking over to Navarro, I didn't see any highlights. I just kind of saw the score. But knowing Navarro is a very good football team who pretty much dominated this whole game in a 28-7 route to move on to the 4th round. No surprise there for me. I had Navarro winning this game, even if Navasota was at full strength. So I wasn't surprised that Navarro won and advanced to the 4th round. Tony, I'll send it over to you. I was basically saying I didn't know if Navasota, if they were playing at full strength with their starting quarterback and the starting running back. I wasn't sure. I couldn't find before game time if these guys were going to play or not. Don't know if you have any idea if Navasota was playing with their starters or not. I would assume that they were not because they only scored 7 points.
Yeah, yeah, it's not showing me nothing online. But like we said though, we did see Navasota, and they though they did have some backups, they were still pretty good. But we know about Navarro. We know about Navarro very well, and we know that like you say, year after year, they're in the playoffs. And they were district champs. They did beat Wimberley in the regular season. So week 4 will be a rematch of that district rivalry that they had earlier this year, and actually it's a rematch from last year's fourth round, because Wembley did beat Navarro and knock Navarro out last year in the fourth round. So we'll see what happens this year. But like you said, Navarro is a tough team to beat. They only got 2 losses on the season. One of those was to Lavernia, which surprisingly, was out early, and the other one was to Cuero, who is also out early in the playoffs. So, Navarro is definitely beatable. Uh, but like we've seen it, some of these teams are getting better. They're getting better in the playoffs, and than they showed in the regular season. And I think Navarro's, that's no doubt that Navarro's in the same league as that. But they got Wimberley next week, and Wimberley's hungry. Wimberley, they lost to them in the district, and I know they really, we won't talk more about that. We'll talk more about that when we predict that game. But man, Navarro's just tough. They're just tough, and they're tough every year. So we'll see what happens. It'd be tough for any team to go in, down starting players, especially at the skill position like the quarterback and the running back. And I imagine that they probably didn't play as well just by looking at the score. But hats off for fourth round again. I mean, just they have a tradition down there, a winning tradition down there. At least they have the last 4 or 5 or 6 years. So hats off for Navarro for getting that win.
Absolutely. The next game we'll break down. This will be the last game that we'll break down for the night. This was the sitting Power up against the Wimberley Texans. Um, Wimberley takes a big win in this one. Um, Tony, your thoughts on this game and sitting season?
Sinton started off, kind of rugged, with those losses to some teams that I thought they should have beat. The Stinson was predicted to win district, and they did. But man, they lost some games that I thought they should have won, and so they started off. They started off kind of rocky, but man, after they beat Lavernia, what, in week 4 or whatever it was, man, they really just turned it on. I mean, they were hot. They were like on an 8-game winning streak. They won district, and then they won two playoff games. They were on a 7 or 8 game winning streak. So I was like, wow, this team is for real. And the way they were playing, I figured that they were gonna give Wimberley a better match. Losing by 2 touchdowns is not as close a game as I thought it was gonna be. But we saw Sinton. We see Sinton every year. They're in our district, but we saw the way they've been playing, and we know that Wimberley is a tough team. But I mean, I just figure Sinton would be a lot tougher. I mean, they go into halftime 21-14. So at that point, it's a close game. You know what I mean? But again, it's the same thing that plagued Sinton in the beginning of the season. It's that fourth quarter. You know what I mean? They don't score any points in the third. They don't score any points in the fourth, and Wembley scores 14 more points. So it's just one of those games where Simpson needed to play all 4 quarters, and like I said, that's how they started off the season. Their first 3 games of the season they lost in the fourth quarter. To Orange Grove and to Beeville, and then to Miller. Well, Miller they lost the whole second half, but that Orange Grove game and that Beeville game they were winning and lost it in the fourth quarter. So this is just another one of those games where the fourth quarter just plagued them. and they couldn't pull off the win. I don't know what it is about the fourth quarter in Simpson. Because Wimberley's an explosive team as well, very explosive team, run and pass. So Simpson needed to be firing on all cylinders to beat a team like that, and they beat some good teams in the postseason, and they beat Rockport, and Rockport's another good example of a team like Wimberley. We play similar football, run the ball a lot, and we passed to mix it up. And Wimberley had been more effective in the past in the passing game in the previous years. But they're the same kind of team that they're used to seeing. So why they weren't ready for that, I'm not sure. But man, again, another Bay Area team, area team that I would like to have seen make it to the next round. I wasn't sure they were going to be able to beat Wimberley just because we've seen Wimberley firsthand last year, and they have a lot of returners. But I would like to have seen them win that game. But they're out. Great season. Simpson had a great season. Like I said, 7 or 8 game winning streak to end the season. It's not bad at all. I think they got the Galvan brothers coming back next year, and they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with next year as well. So, Sinton does not definitely need to keep their head down on a season like they had this year. 8-4 is not spectacular, but the game, the first 3 games that they played were winnable games, and they learned from them. And like I said, after that, they had an 8 game winning streak. So, hats off to Simpson and the Pirates over there for really a good season. And Wimberley, we'll see what happens next week. They were able to pull off an upset last year, and see if they could do it again this year.
Well, Tony, I'll start off by saying that um, Sidon has a really good coach. So props to Coach Troutman out there, because this was coaching, a lot of it. Starting the season the way they did, and then we saw the Miller game. Well, I saw the Miller game to its full entirety. The way that they were losing in the second half, just starting off really strong and then just falling apart, was really, really hard. And these guys could have just gave up. But we know in sitting that's not an option out there. And the coaches found a way to fix it early on in the season before district, and then they get on the road. So, and that's a credit to Coach Troutman and his coaching staff out there. They found a way to fix it, and they fixed it all the way into the third round. So first of all, hats off to the coaches out there and sitting, and the amazing job they did to get these boys prepared. They put these boys in a position to win, and they went all the way as far as they could go this year. This is a team that has not been dominant, the dominant years that you've seen in Sydney, but I have a feeling that they're going to get there again with this coach and their underclassmen that they have. You talked about the Galvan brothers coming back. They will be a force to be reckoned with next year. And if this district plays out to its full entirety next year, it's going to be great, because you're going to bring the three Valley teams to play up here with us, or we go down there to play with them. And it's if you can go undefeated next year in this district, you're going to be a bad, bad, bad team, because it's going to be very, very hard with the teams. Raymondville, Port Isabel, and Rio Hondo, with Rockport, Ingleside, and sitting all in the playoffs. Well, potentially we're a playoff team. There's just going to be a battle every week, pretty much. And so a great season for the Sitting Pirates. Listen, the Galvan brother, one of them was out in the second half, and I'm sure that played a big part of. I think he was hurt. I don't know if it was something with his collarbone or shoulder, but I know he didn't play the second half. At least that's what I was told. So if he didn't if he didn't play, of course that's pretty much a Sitton's offense in what they want to do. So they went in to try to pass a little bit. I heard they had a couple of turnovers. Kind of the game got away from them. I had heard prior to this, because I had Wimberley winning this game. I just thought Wimberley was going to win this game simply because of the experience where we were at last year. And this is a team that knows how to win. Their coaching staff knows how to prepare this team. We saw them last year we saw how explosive this team can be. They can score. I mean, you've got to play 4 quarters with Wimberley. You do. You can be beating them by 2. You've got to play really solid 4 quarters. A lot of things had to go Rockport's way last year just to be able to get to that 2-point conversion. Because there are many times they could have just taken a 2 or 3 point lead, a touchdown lead, and they didn't. So Wimberley's a very good, experienced playoff team. So I had them winning, and then I was informed that they had some of their key players out. So I said, well, I still think they'll win. But I think one of the factors for sitting going down was the fact that one of the Galvan brothers I heard was out. And of course, like I said, that's going to hurt your offense. And that's probably why they didn't score in the third and fourth quarter. They maybe had to go to a different type of offense that they're not really accustomed to, and they really didn't get the win. Not sure if that's what happened, but it's a great season for the Sitting Pirates. They were able to turn their season around when it looked really, really gloomy here at the beginning of the season. And they go on that big old win streak. They get into the playoffs. They started building some confidence. They have a great quarterback, a great running back, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with next year. But, again, they go down to a good team, of course. And next year, I think title next year. I still think that Rockport, and of course, I love the Rockport Pirates, but this is going to be a good battle between both teams. I think both teams will have a chance to win the district next year, and we'll talk more. They start next year when we start this gridiron again next year, but it's going to be a battle. But outside of that, man, great win for the sitting, great season for the Sitting Pirates. I mean, like I said, they've got a great. They're getting that winning tradition back there, T. And once that happens, man, it's going to be hard to knock those guys out. We've seen them years and years. They've been dominant out there, so it's a good thing for Rockport also because they get to see that, and we've experienced that. And it's just going to be, I think, the next couple of years going to be a battle if Rockport and Sit and stay in the same district. So congratulations to the Pirates on a great season, the Sitting Pirates, and we look forward to doing battle with them next year as well. The last game that we'll talk about, well, we won't talk about, but the last game that's on the gridiron schedule, we had the number 8 Graham Steers going up against Aubrey Chaparrals. I don't know who won that game. I didn't write the score. Do you have any idea who won that game, Tony?
Yeah, let me check it out right now. Uh,
Not sure why I didn't write it down. I wrote the time, but I did not write the score.
let's
I want to
see.
say Graham won, I think, but I'm not sure on that.
Graham. Uh, yeah, Graham wins 28-14.
Yeah, I thought that they had won. I just couldn't remember the score. So T, that concludes the 4A Division 1 and 2 breakdown. Thanks for coming on. And I think tomorrow or Thursday we'll be breaking down the 3A and 2A, the smaller schools. We'll also be talking about the 5A, the big schools. The 5A, they're going to start the playoff here in 2 weeks. They got one more week of the regular season. Most teams will have the bye. And then not this Friday, but next week, the big schools will start. So you'll have Flower Bluff, you'll have the Corpus School Vets Memorial. We'll be talking about them as well as they start their playoff run. But this was great. Like I said, it'll be tomorrow or Thursday that we'll break down the smaller schools. We'll also have the predictions on these games as well. In round 4, we talked about China Springs and Carthage going at. That'll be good. Wimberley and Navarro, they have history. That'll be good. In the small schools, you'll have Refugio and Shiner. That's going to probably be the game. The game everybody wants to go. They're actually playing Friday at 1. I think 1 or 2 o'clock in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, and then of course you're going to have the Miller LBJ. So we got some really good games to break down amongst the others few days. So I look forward to that. I'll send you guys the email. I say when we'll break them down. And so I look forward to doing that. And hopefully we'll catch a couple of games. I'm hoping I can catch that Miller game. There's no tickets, so I don't know if I'll be able to do that. If not, if I can't go, I'll have to stream it. But that Refugio Shiner game is also going to be another good one to see. That's going to be some really good Texas high school football. I think that the winner of that game is actually going to win a state. And I know Shiner is looking for revenge on Refugio, so that'll be good. That'll be something we'll break down here on the gridiron as well. So T, if there's nothing else, well, actually, I'll give you your final thoughts on this Division 1 and 2. Anything you want to add before we call it a night?
Yeah, it's. I know we said this a few times throughout the season, but you know, I think that all the adversity that all these boys and all these coaches had to go through this season, with all the COVID restrictions and trying to keep your grades up in the classroom with distance learning and back and forth in the classroom and distance learning. I mean, it's been really tough on the boys. And I imagine across the state, but just great football overall. There's been a lot of competitive games and a lot of surprises, and just hats off to all the boys for putting in work all season, and all the coaches for taking care of their boys and keeping them safe and making sure that they're staying healthy, and just football is as we talked about the last time, is something that a lot of these kids will remember for the rest of their lives, and for the seniors who ended their season last week, and are who already ended their season this year. It's these are memories you always have, and for the juniors and underclassmen for next year. I mean, got to make the best of it, and 2020 has been a tough year all the way around, but especially for fall sports. So hats off to just the kind of football that these young men were able to play, and it's great to watch football and keep up with it, and I really enjoy it, and I just wish the best for all the teams that are still in it, and I hope that they're able to stay safe and healthy so that they're able to continue their playoff journey.
Definitely, Tony. That I mean, it was a season like no other. Coaches and players had to do a lot. 1 week you play, 1 week you're out. You had the additional stress of making sure your kids were doing what they needed to do so that they didn't come up with COVID that could, probably, take you out of a week or two. Teams that were going to play another team, and your opponent just, calls up and says, "Hey, man, we can't play," and then you're struggling trying to find another team to play on short notice, and then you maybe have to travel. It was just a lot of things that the coaches and players had to deal with, like they hadn't dealt before. But I think everybody did a good job, as best as we as could be done under the circumstances, and to be able to continue to play the full season has been something that is something that we didn't expect. We didn't even know at the beginning we weren't going to have a full football season, but these guys made it happen somehow, and that's to a lot of players going home and doing what coaches are telling them to do so that they can continue to play these games, especially for these seniors who obviously want to get out on that football field and play. It's your senior year, and if you don't play, you can't come back next year. You're done. So it was a great job with everybody. It took a lot, and it was definitely a challenge season. But I think coaches and players did the best they could to continue to play, and we're still playing, and hopefully we can crown championships and teams up and I look forward, like I said, hopefully we can get by next season this will be under control where all teams can play because you want to see that in all districts and really crown a champion with all the teams that are supposed to play. So we're still far from that. That's still a ways off, but we're definitely hoping that next season we'll have a full season like we had in the past. But again, like you said, great, just a great effort on the coaches and players because they had to really on top of the field, just playing football on the gridiron, right? You had this challenge where it's very scary because you've got a lot of players playing on the freshman, the JV, and the varsity, and you get one person that can contract this COVID, and that just pretty much shuts everything down. So it was a lot to deal with, but these guys made it, and I was really glad to see, especially the seniors being able to play. In most cases, their senior year. In some areas, we know schools just didn't go. We know some teams from the valley, so there were seniors out there that didn't get to play the senior year, and that's heartbreaking because you put so much work as an underclassman and you work out there your senior year. But coaches had to make a decision. Schools had to make a decision. And I got to tell you, Tony, as much as you and I love football, safety comes first. And if the school felt that, hey, man, this is not safe. I know seniors want to play, but adults have to make a decision. And so hopefully it's sad to see some of these seniors didn't get to play. But man, safety comes first. There's life after football. So decisions that had to be made. they were made in the best interest of the kids. So, hopefully next year things will be better. On top of that, this is the Gridiron saying good night. As we just broke down 4A Division 1 and 2. As I said, we'll get to the small schools, if not tomorrow, by Thursday. We'll also have these predictions. So we'll get the breakdowns of the small schools. We'll talk about the big schools, and we'll have the predictions for the 4A 1 and 2 and the small schools all before Friday. We'll just ram it all up, but we'll get it done, guys. So we'll see you. If not tomorrow, like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday, on Thursday, but we will break down. So T, we'll talk either tomorrow or we'll talk Thursday, but we'll get all this stuff we'll break all these things down and make our predictions. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you either tomorrow or on Thursday. Peace out, brother.
So